Hello, everyone, and welcome to On the Spot. It's another Quarrying Africa program that speaks to industry figureheads about some of the key issues that affect the industry. Today, I'm speaking to Nico Pina, the director of ASPASA, and Anton Bowen, who is the About Face auditor at ASPASA. About Face is the environmental audit that is done by ASPASA, the industry association. Nico, just to start with you, just give us a bit of background on the environmental audit and its importance in the open cast mining industry.
Thanks, Manisha. Thanks for inviting us, and thanks for holding us as your guests. And it's the person that's going to do it for us is Anthony Bowens. Very clued up. But let me start with the history of this about face, and you'll see when you see it, it's an eagle. It shows the eagle. So we're trying to bring the nature back. Let me start then. In 1999, the then leaders of ASPASA, which were very senior people, were CEOs and so forth, they then had what they called a Bosberaad. They had two. I was invited to the one. I just was going to start with them in that year, or just started. And actually 89, 99, they started. And the decision was made that for our part of the industry, which is small open cast quarries, you have to be in line with the legislation. You need to be in line with what the people outside the quarry sees. So they decided that the two main things that we as ASPASA would be doing is firstly health and safety, which I will not talk about today. That's not our subject matter. But then they said environmental issues. Now, the problem was then at that stage, and which was a problem until basically about a year ago, because Anthony's now refined it, is that the whole subject matter of environmental affairs was a complicated issue. What is environmental affairs? It's a broad spectrum. It's from dust to water to rattles and shakes and ducks and bunnies and stuff. It's like trees and stuff like that. It's a very broad concept. People don't always know exactly what they're talking. So they said that ASPASA at that stage should start an audit system. And at that stage, the director of ASPASA was the first one. I'm the second director. His name was Sir Rupert Bromley. Sir Rupert Bromley then contacted the American Aggregate Association, which is they call the Aggregate Sand and Stone Gravel Association. It's huge. It's in America. That's bigger than what our whole mining industry and our minerals council. It's a huge body. It looks after because they got a lot of open costs. So he then spoke to them, and they said we could use their audit document, which was the National Gravel and Aggregate Association's document. He then took that document and refined it, but it was very rough. And it was a basic document, just at that stage, it was fine. So they developed that document. That document was then used to run around the country and audit people and help. So that's where it started. It was very rough and ready. And then it refined and refined and refined. Then we had some guys that who used to work for Eskom. They came in and they brought in very technical situation, which was fine at that stage. I think it focused everybody, which is important. Then we got a guy that worked for one of our big members at that stage who retired, who then ran with it. His name was Alan Cluett. Alan Cluett knew exactly what it was about, to look at the environmental things and how to fix the mine, the company and the individuals that run it or that are in charge. Then we had for a short while, a year and a half, we had a Lizette lady who had more of a legal focus on it, and that was also necessary, because what she did is she made people aware that you're not doing it for fun. You're doing it because you can get into trouble. And then that with COVID died, and she had to carry on with her life, so we couldn't keep her on. And then we basically for a year and a half did nothing, and then we came up and we decided to start a subcommittee on environmental issues. And what Anthony's done, he will explain. But that's the history of the ASPASA about face environmental audit. And I can just say to you that it carries a lot of weight out there. People don't realize it, but there's very, very powerful people on the environmental side that go to quarries, and when they see the ASPASA a membership certificate on the wall. We had one where I won't mention her name, but she's very, very powerful. And she walked in and she said, "Oh, you're a member of ASPASA? Okay, then I will leave." Because we're not bullying people. We haven't got the authority to close anything, but it's all about educational help. So all the past has built up to where we are now. I think that's a good introduction. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Nico. Andron, just tell us more about the new environmental audit system. What has changed and what necessitated these changes?
Manisha, what really happened was during the lockdown, Nico contacted me because there was a vacuum in terms of environmental compliance and monitoring by ASPASA. So what we looked at, we looked at the current situation and what was required, and through interaction in the industry with the various role players, it came up that the industry needed a revised audit protocol, which was designed by the industry for the industry. In other words, a sort of a homegrown audit protocol. And using the original about face document, which Alan Cluett had worked on and that which Nico referred to, that was taken as a base document. Now, what we found was that globally, there's an enormous increase in environmental awareness. I think anyone who reads or listens to the press can see there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot of pressure from NGOs, there's a lot of pressure from stakeholders, communities, etc., particularly on big industry and the mining sector, of which we are obviously part of. So with that in mind, we looked at this and said, okay, what do we do now? And through a lot of consultation with the various members of ASPASA, we've come up with a very workable document. And it's actually divided into two aspects. One is more the sort of physical side of what's happening on operations, and the other is more the legalities, you know, for simple use of a simpler term, more the paperwork side. Now, during lockdown, what we were going to do is have the online audits, which was the legal side, which would allow us to actually continue with it. And then as soon as lockdown was lifted, we could actually do physicals as well. So we've carried that recipe, that model through. Part of the audits are being done online and part are being done physically. So they'll alternate, you know, biannually. So we'll do a physical this year, and next year we'll do an online. Unless, of course, the members insist on having a physical audit done, which is also their choice.
That's great. That's well explained. What are some of the key issues that you will be looking at in this new audit?
Well, the big thing is obviously legal compliance. You know, the people running the mines are, in terms of the legislation, are responsible for running you know, according to the law. So I'm looking at that, and also from an educational perspective, to ensure that the managers, particularly the managers, understand what their obligations are and understand what they need to know. We don't expect them to be environmental specialists. It's not possible. You know, they've got enough work of their own. They've got huge jobs. A normal mine manager has got a massive job. But we want to provide them with the tools that, should somebody approach them about environmental issues, at least they must know what to say or where to source the information, and not be sitting there with a mouthful of teeth. So that's the one thing, is the compliance side, knowledge side. And then, of course, we're looking at sustainability, so that the industries are sustainable for now and into the future, to next generations. And then the other very important part, which is a big focus, is community involvement, community and stakeholders, which is something we have found is having a big influence on operations countrywide in the mining sector.
Yes. When does this new audit start?
The audit's already started. We started in February this year. So we've done a couple of online audits and a couple of physical audits. So yeah, it's on the go and it's happening. Been very successful to date. Some of the folk are not, were a bit disappointed in some of the scoring that they got, but it was it's really a case of showing people what is needed and giving them the opportunity to actually rectify the problems that are out there.
Thank you so much for explaining. I really appreciate your time, Nico and Andon. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much, Manisi. Thanks.
Thank you, Manisi.